Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown, Jonathan Taylor.
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three in.
He hit it.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Well, welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Monday from high atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Hope you're ready for a good start to your week. Hope you had a good weekend. And if not, we can get you headed in that direction. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte should be along with us here a little bit. Dustin DePirick will be on with us.
He's right here. He's right here, Jimbo.
I was not looking. I was just bouncing around, talking in my head, and look who is here. Dustin Schutte with us, as always. Don Fisher not with us this week. That's okay. Dustin DePirick will be along as well. So lots to get to, though. Plenty to talk about. Indiana loses over the weekend to Rutgers, their first game of the year. Cincinnati hiring Scott Satterfield from Louisville, whom John pointed out, Louisville plays in a bowl game. Michael Penix Jr. coming back for another season. Let's see. Is Purdue the only conference team to play in a conference championship that was not ranked? Speaking of college football playoffs, we've got lots of that to talk about. Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. The crime dog McGriff's going in, but Clemens, Bonds, and Palmero, not so much. But what's up, Mr. Schutte?
Oh, not much. Been a busy weekend, and that's a good question. I don't know. I know there's a lot of concern now that Scott Satterfield left for Cincinnati about the future of Jeff Brom. Indiana
okay,
losing that. Okay.
That's my well, that was the first thing when I saw that. But what, other than it being his home, I don't think they can pay him what Purdue can pay him to keep him. They just played in the Big Ten championship. That would be a major step down to me. There's a reason Scott Satterfield left Louisville, because it was a step up to go to Cincinnati, who is joining the Big 12, a much better conference in football. The ACC is a weak football conference. It's in any other time. Had this been 3 years ago, oh man, they would be in love and everything would be great. It's the timing. I don't know that the timing is right. But does Jeff Brom say, screw it? This is my opportunity to go home. There was already one opportunity and that didn't happen. Does he take this one? I don't know. This is a weird deal.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because it basically comes down to, do you want to go back to your hometown? Do you believe that you can be more successful at Louisville than you can be at Purdue? And I believe that part of that is true because I believe that the Big Ten is a much better football conference than the ACC. So he might have a higher ceiling at Louisville, but in terms of resources, in terms of recruiting, in terms of finances, Purdue's going to have them beat because of the new Big Ten contract stuff. So it's going to be an interesting thing. There's no question he's going to land a pretty good contract no matter where he's at, because I'm sure Louisville's going to push that up, and I'm sure Purdue's going to do everything they can to keep him. It's going to be something to keep an eye on here for the next week, because I think he said, I believe it was before this year, right, that he said he would never rule anything out when he was asked about if he would ever come back to Louisville. So maybe the stars have aligned. Maybe he thinks that he's led Purdue to the highest they can go, and maybe he's ready for a new challenge. I don't know. I know there's a lot of panic-based Purdue fans this morning based on what I've seen on Twitter. So it's going to be fascinating here for the next couple of days.
Yep. We've got that to talk about. Indiana loses their first game over the weekend to Rutgers. And here's a great point by Michael. Don't get too cocky against Nebraska. They just beat Creighton. I miss that. Creighton is one of the best teams in the country. So that is a major upset. That's shocking that Nebraska was able to do that because they're not that good. So, man. Ryan pointing out North Carolina dropped 4 in a row now. That's not a shock to me, depending upon their schedule, but they're not that good. They're good at the top, but that's it. And they're going to have a tough year. No doubt about that. There's just a ton to talk about today, man. Michael Penix is coming back for another season in Washington. Congratulations to him. But man, oh man, I thought that he was out of eligibility by now.
Right.
But B, after this season, man, I don't know if it's that he needs another season of college to prove to NFL scouts that he can stay healthy, because that has been the knock on him, that he, is too brittle. But he made it through it. Not only did he make it through an entire season staying healthy, he made it through an entire season staying healthy and lighting it up. But coming back yet again, holy cow. We're talking Heisman next year.
Yeah, he'll be one of the front runners again for the second time in his career. He'll be one of the front runners, and I'm guessing he's going to live up to the billing a little bit better this time around than when that was the case at Indiana. I mean, that kid, you talk about that is an easy kid to root for. Everything he went through at Indiana, for him to be successful, and for Washington to be, they're not back to where they were when they were a powerhouse, but they are back towards the top of the Pac-12. They're probably going to stay up there for a while. And that also shows the kind of relationship he has with Kalen DeBoer, to trust him to be able to, you know what, I'm not going to go to the NFL this year. I trust you're going to help me to stay healthy, to improve. And then when the 2024 NFL draft comes around, then I'll be, maybe a little bit more of a high draft pick. So I'm looking forward to watching him play, because if he can do what he did this year, Washington's going to be a problem again next season.
Gosh, we've got so much to talk about today. Yeah. Prime time. That's right. Thanks a lot, Ed. Prime time to Colorado. That surprises me only because I would have thought that there would have been bigger, better opportunities, but maybe he took this one with purpose to do exactly what he did at Jackson State, which is take a start at the bottom and turn them into something. And Colorado is, if nothing, at the bottom. Yeah, they are one of the worst programs in the country right now.
Did you see that video yesterday of him addressing the team?
I did not.
He basically went in and said, "You better start entering the transfer portal, because I'm bringing my own luggage. In other words, I'm bringing my own players. So if you're not in, then get in the transfer portal now." I'm sure that conversation has happened when coaching changes happen more frequently than probably anybody knows. But at the same time, to see it and see it on the camera was hilarious, bizarre. I don't know the words to describe it, but it was definitely interesting.
It's what you call an attention getter.
Yes.
That's what it's intended for. But yeah, I understand normally we're not privy to those, but it goes on a lot. When the transfer portal was not in existence, it was still suggested, sure, hey, maybe you might want to find a different place to go next year, because your playing time is going to be zero here. We'll see what I have no doubts about Deion Sanders. I don't doubt that he can do that he can coach. Now, the higher he gets, it's going to take more than just being Deion. You're right. Going to have to, you get up, the higher you get, the big leagues, it's defense, it's offense, it's everything. You've got to manage all of that. You've got to have great coaches, great coordinators. So there's just more to it, but this is going to be an interesting test for Deion to see what he can do. Because like I said, he's not going to a gimme. He's going to Colorado. They suck. So anything that he does there, he gets thumbs up.
This is kind of why I think it's a perfect job for him too, because the expectations are so low at Colorado, and they have been for the last 2 decades, that he's going to get his chance to really put his thumbprint on it. And look, if he can get to 4 wins in his first season, it's going to be considered a success. And you don't have to win a national championship. You can get to 8. If you can get to regularly 7 to 8, 9 wins every year, they're going to really like that out of Colorado. So there's not a lot of expectations, but I think that he's capable of getting them back into relevancy.
Is McCullough already in the portal? I hadn't seen that yet, but
yeah, announced last night.
Not a surprise there at all. So, and I'm sure there'll be more.
AJ Barner's in as well. That's the other big name. Along with, I guess, Charles Campbell, you could say is a big name too, considering he's a starter, even though he's just a kicker.
Wow. What team loses a kicker?
It happens pretty frequently, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess I just haven't noticed, but that's bad. Not a starting kicker.
Well, here's what I'll say. It's usually the mid-major kickers going to bigger programs. That's the caveat there.
Wow. All right. Well, Indiana football is what's next year going to be like? Is it just simply a lame duck year for Indiana, and they're just going to get kicked in the nuts all year?
That's what it seems like, unfortunately. This is what Tom Allen alluded to when he went on that 8 to 9 minute. We don't want to call it a rampage. When he was talking for 8 or 9 minutes about NIL and recruiting his own players. I mean, I think he saw the writing on the wall when he was talking about this stuff. When the end of the seaon, things didn't go their way. I think
when you lose,
exactly.
Well, yeah, when you lose go on. We'll talk more about that, of course. Indiana basketball losing their first game, period, much less a conference game over the weekend on the road at Rutgers, and that's a bad loss for this team. A bad loss. For a team that is projected to be a potential Big Ten champion, you can't go to Rutgers and lose. Just can't. Haven't beat Rutgers since Trace Jackson Davis has been here. Trace Jackson Davis has not beaten Rutgers since he has been at Indiana. And he was here for, this is his 5th year?
Yes. No. This is his 4th,
just his
right?
4th? Yeah. And it was just, they out-defensed, out-hustled, out-worked, out-fought, out-scrapped, out-coached, outplayed, out-everything this Indiana team that we've seen dominate everyone. Indiana doesn't even score 50 points. They can't even manage 50 points. Now, it was problematic that you don't have Jalen Hood-Schifino, but you can't use that as an excuse. You still got everybody else. Xavier Johnson was 2 of 11 on the day. That doesn't help things. Race Thompson, 0 for 4 again. Trey Galloway, 0 for 3. Jordan Geronimo, 0 for 5. Tamar Bates, 1 of 7. You can't win like that. And it's scary for this team because as good as they have looked, wow, that was a bad look for this team. And they just got outplayed. I could not believe how Rutgers just completely shut down the paint for Indiana.
Here's what I'm going to say about this, and this is I'm going to detract slightly from the game aspect of it, and say that this is going to be a wild year in college. I think we've reached a point in the college basketball season already in December where we can establish that there's no elite team or teams, and we saw on Sunday Northwestern went in and beat Michigan State. Nebraska beat Creighton.
That's still going to be the biggest upset of the year for a while, right there.
Which one?
Gigantic. Nebraska upsetting Creighton.
Yes.
That is huge because Nebraska is so bad, and Creighton is a top 10 or 5 team.
I think they were number 7. Yeah, so they were top 10.
Nebraska is not good at all. And Creighton has played a tough schedule, so that's a shocker. So, but yes, that tells you the Big Ten, as always, forget about it.
Top to bottom, yep.
Now, Indiana could lose half of their road games as long as they win all their home games in the Big Ten and be fine.
Yes.
That puts you at 15-5. That's right about where a conference champion is. So I was thinking about that this morning. But you've got that's one you gave away right there.
It is. Here's what I'm going to say real quickly on that. It's you are not going to go undefeated, okay?
No.
They're not going to go undefeated. So to me, it's how do you bounce back after you face some adversity? How do you bounce back after you lose a game? And we're going to see that because they still got a really tough stretch coming up. If they respond positively, then I think the outlook for this team is going to be really good. But you have to respond positively and not let this be the end all be all. So I think this team has that mentality. I think that they're capable of bouncing back in a big way. So it stinks because you thought that you could go on the road, get a big win at Rutgers, and add another quality win to your resume. But especially this 5-game stretch, if you looked at it and you say 3-2, you are pretty happy about that. I still think that if you get to that, you're still pretty happy about it.
Absolutely. Let's see, man, there was so much going on
Break.
over the weekend. We'll take a break. We've got Dustin the Pyrrhic joining us. Talk about a lot more of the IU basketball, IU football, just college football overall. We've got a ton going on, man. We appreciate everybody jumping on here. Brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, of course, and Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club and its affiliate network of restaurants, including BB's Market. BB's Market is your local meat shop, caterer, baker, no matter where you live. Visit bbs.com. online, but they have the best custom meats, in-house made products around. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Nebraska is going to win most of their home games in the conference this year.
Especially if they bring their own officials. I didn't see the game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, they're not going to win most of
Plus, that is a rivalry. I mean, not that it's like the most intense rivalry, but they play every year, Creighton and Nebraska. They know each other well.
They got beat by St. John's by 20.
St. John's hasn't lost yet. Someone said that was a bad loss the other day, and I'm like, they haven't lost. So
they got beat by Memphis by 12. Who else did they lose to? What happened here?
Who, Nebraska?
Yeah, St. John's. They got beat by Oklahoma. Well, I don't think they have a bet. They might be a mystery team, Nebraska.
Mystery team.
They don't really have a bad loss. I mean, they've had some ugly losses, but there's not a team that they've lost to that's like Florida State.
Nebraska is better than we think they are.
They might be a bubble team. How about that? I apologize for this bad luck. There's not many places to go in this home. Wednesday through Friday.
No,
Wednesday through Friday.
Your quality is fine.
Okay. Wednesday through Friday should be better.
It's actually the best it's been.
Yeah. I mean, I don't notice any problems.
Now everything's going to go haywire now that you said that.
Exactly. How was the Big Ten championship game, by the way?
It was so much fun. I hope everybody gets to experience that. It was awesome.
The press boxes are way too damn high.
That is correct.
So there was no enjoyment going to that for me. I'm like,
You know what's crazy though? It's more likely now, starting in 2024, to make the college football playoff than your conference championship if you're certain teams.
That's true. That is true.
Like all Indiana has to do is have another year like they did in 2020, and they could find themselves as a 12 seed.
You know what though? That's kind of the same thing as the Big Ten tournament. Like you're more likely to get into the NCAA tournament than you are the championship of the.
I guess that's true, except everybody's in it in basketball. But.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Fair enough.
All right.
Where's Mr. Doperak?
We have one more segment. This is normally when Don comes on.
Oh.
All right, here we go.
Or on this station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Monday. I hope you had a good weekend. Ready to get started on your week. Jim Coyle with you as always, as is Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com. We're brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant, where tonight at 7:05 you can find Don Fisher and Mike Woodson, Indiana basketball coach for Inside Indiana Basketball. Head out there for the coaches show and a great meal, no less. And it's going to be very interesting tonight as Indiana coming off of their first loss of the season, a little bit of a surprise. I guess nothing should be a surprise, but you go to Rutgers. That was not one I thought that they were going to lose, but also they did not have Jalen Hitchfino, and it definitely made a huge difference for this team. Put the ball in Xavier Johnson's hand a lot more, and trying to score without having Jalen Hood to play off of. Trace Jackson-Davis limited to 13 points. Race Thompson shut out with 0 points. So all this talk we hear of Indiana's dominant front court. Jordan Geronimo, 2 points on 0 of 5 shooting, and it was shut down by Rutgers.
Yeah.
Shut down. So, how dominant can they really be?
This is what we talked about, and this is why you have to be a decent 3-point shooting team. And what were they 25%, 24% against Rutgers the other day? Because
24%, yeah.
Okay. So this is why you have to have outside shooting, because teams are going to figure out the interior. You're going to play teams especially in the Big Ten, are going to bump you around. They're going to be physical in the paint. And if you can't knock down an outside shot to stretch that defense, it's going to be a problem. So Rutgers was able to take away the interior, and then Indiana shot 25 3-pointers and only made 6 of them. I mean, you got to get that number up to 9 or 10. And we're talking, they lost by 15. But if you hit 3 more 3-point shots in that game, it's all of a sudden it's just a couple possessions and maybe things go a little bit differently. So that's why you have to be more versatile. And this was still some of the concerns. Now, early in the season, first 7 games, we've seen Indiana shot the ball a lot better than they did last season. They didn't have Jalen Hood-Schifino, so maybe that takes something away. I think you can say there are still some concerns, because you did get 21 points from Miller Kopp. You did get some contributions from other guys who, when other guys weren't stepping up, Miller Kopp did. So it just has to be more consistent. And once again, Xavier Johnson pressing a little bit, 2 of 11. It's really the first time in the regular season we've seen him do that. Was able to do some good things, but this team has to be more consistent from behind the 3-point line. Maybe they are, and this is just a one-off, but that's why it was such a heavy talked about topic of conversation early in the season was 3-point shooting because of games like this.
Mike says he knows Race has been putting up some decent numbers, but something has seemed off about him all year. Not sure what. I can't disagree with that. He hasn't had dominant performances, but it's a different team. Maybe seems like he's laying back a little bit more than he did last year. Maybe that's just appearances. I don't know. Also yesterday, Purdue Big win over Minnesota at home, 89-70. Michigan goes to Kentucky, and that's a close one. They lose 73-69. It would have been nice to see Michigan get that win, huh?
Yep. And that was one of the that was the London game. That was a good game though. That was a good game.
Arizona, a future Indiana opponent, beats California 81-68. And that Nebraska game we talked about, they beat number 7 Creighton by 10.
Yep.
63-53. Outscore them in the second half by 8. Outscore them in the first half. So that was Nebraska's game.
That was. Here's the crazy thing too. Have you looked at the stat line for this game?
I have not yet.
Okay. Nebraska, 3 of 12 from 3-point. 4 of 7 from the free throw line. And they won that game over the number 7 team in the country by 10 points.
What was their field goal percentage shooting? They must have been lighting it up.
47. So solid, but not.
That's an ugly game.
So yeah, you can win with 47%, but you usually are shooting a lot of free throws and maybe hitting a few more than just 3 3-pointers. And they had 13 turnovers. So it wasn't, I guess it was an ugly game. Like I said, I just saw some of the highlights. I didn't watch the actual game. But when I looked at that stat line, that's impressive. To find a way to win with 3 3-pointers and only shoot 7 free throws, that's gutting it out, man.
Yep. You mentioned Northwestern going up to Michigan State, winning 70-63. That Northwestern team is 6-2 on the year right now, and 1-0 in the Big Ten. So they've got a better Big Ten record than Indiana does. So there's that.
Didn't that happen last year too?
I don't. Well,
I feel like Northwestern beat somebody. It might have been Michigan State. They beat somebody good, and we thought, hey, Northwestern might be pretty solid, and then just fell off a cliff.
Well, let's see. I'm gonna hit some of these comments. Make sure I don't miss any of these. Nick thinks TJD shouldn't be playing with his back. Well, I don't know what his back is like. I mean, I don't know if it's how badly it's bothering him or not. I mean, I'm not going to make excuses for that loss because there are none. They played against better talent, better teams, and they just didn't get they just got out hustled. They got beat. I mean, my God, they did not hit shots. And hey, Rutgers scored in the paint. Where is I need to pull up my stats. Because Rutgers scored in the paint, and I'm pretty sure they outscored Indiana in the paint easily.
I'm sure they did. I mean, because I don't think they didn't hit they hit the same amount of threes. They were 6 of 21 from behind the 3-point line. So, and they were 20. They only shot 36. You talk about an ugly game. They only
24 to 14 points in the paint. Indiana had 14 points in the paint versus North Carolina 50-5-0.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that against North Carolina and Armando Bacot and that group that this team can put 50 points on the board, but against this Rutgers team, they can't. They can't even get to 20.
I think Cliff Amore is I always want to sing the song when I say his name. I think he's a much better defender than he's given credit.
Maybe so, but Indiana's got to. It doesn't matter. Indiana's going to have to find a way to get through. I mean, wow. I'm not going to, people shouldn't jump off the boat.
No.
Maybe there was something going on. I don't know. Again, there's always things that we don't know. So, race didn't seem entrenched in that game.
Well, I mean, I don't like to take one game. I know somebody has said he hasn't looked like himself throughout the course of the season, but I also don't like to take one game sample size. I mean, Indiana is still a good team. They're still going to be one of the top teams in the Big Ten. Don't hit the panic button because of one loss. This stuff happens. But again, to me, it's how they respond. They've still got some major tests coming up. You have a home game against a Nebraska team that's going to come into Bloomington very confident after they just beat Creighton. Then you go out to Vegas and you play Arizona. Then you go to Fog Allen Fieldhouse. You can still if they win, if they beat Arizona and or Kansas, we're talking about a whole different conversation we're having right now. So let's not hit the panic button. I'm not going to throw a race under the bus. Sometimes you just don't play well.
Yeah, well, rebounding, like Tater Algie's pointing out, they just got out hustled. I mean, like I said, they got out rebounded unbelievably. It was horrible. 47-33.
And
they gave up 17 offensive rebounds.
Yeah,
17.
And this is the first time that Indiana's had to play tough teams in back-to-back games. So that has something to do with it as well.
They gave up a point for each offensive rebound they allowed as well.
Oof.
So there's that. That's pretty much the story of the game right there. They got out rebounded and just got beat up in the paint. Indiana got beat up in the paint. Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, and Jordan Geronimo got their butt kicked in the paint. That's all you can say. It was the truth. That's what happened. We saw it. The numbers bear it out. Now, how do they respond? Are they embarrassed, or are they upset, or do they want to show they're better than that? That's up to them, and they'll get the chance playing a Nebraska team that's coming off of a great win Wednesday before you head out to play an even tougher game yet. So, man, that's at the end of the week. Gosh, that's going to be here fast. We'll be coming to you from Las Vegas on Friday, as a matter of fact. Holy smokes.
You going to catch a Wayne Newton show?
I don't think so, man. It's going to be just try to get some sleep, get up, and do it.
There you go.
But let's see. I'll make sure I don't. You mentioned St. John's earlier. I saw that they did lose to Iowa State last night. Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride, man. But yeah, the truth says Indiana will be all right. That's right. Yep. That's right. You got to take it. They're not going undefeated.
Exactly. That's what you got. You were never going to go undefeated.
And has this team really learned how to win yet? I thought that they had, but have they really learned how to win yet? We got to take a break, according to the boss. We'll be back with much more. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Endeavor Hospitality's Wild Club and Go Team. Make sure for those on the go, reach out to GoTeamBites.com and join the Wild Club. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's a
All right, Mr. Dopiric should be with us shortly.
Oh, somebody said Cliff barely played. I was in Indy all day, so I I did not see much of the game, to be quite honest, but that's okay.
I'll tell you what, I'm disappointed in the freaking World Cup loss, man. I just had a bad sports day on Saturday. Those days happen, and I had one this weekend.
They do, and that is the worst.
It was one of those things like after the U.S., especially like it would have been one thing if they lost and it was a good performance, but they just got their ass kicked by the Netherlands.
Right.
It was just one of those situations where I was like, I feel like Indiana's going to lose to Rutgers today.
It's gonna happen. Hey, well, you know what? You should start calling your shot more, because you said you thought that Indiana was going to run North Carolina out of the gym, and they did.
That's true. Well, I did call that on Twitter. I put that on there.
You did.
So that held up.
You called the Michigan State win. Although you thought,
that's right. I'm on a streak right now. I didn't think about that.
You called Indiana to beat Purdue, so that didn't happen. So, but well,
I also did. I should have called. This wouldn't have made that prediction any more correct, but I should have called Dexter Williams being hurt.
I was going to say I'll give you a mulligan on that one, because I think that if he played that whole game, I don't think Purdue would have won.
And I was reading something the other day. There's a chance he may not be back at the beginning of next season, which makes me think that even if he is able to come back, it's going to be just like Michael Penix all over again. That's kind of the impression I'm getting with that.
And the problem is one of the things that makes him so good is his legs, and if he can't use them, and especially playing their offensive line, that's going to be a problem.
It's either going to be start Brendan Sorsby or find somebody in the transfer portal again, which that's going to be the story of Indiana football probably until further notice, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So. You see the text messages last night, by the way?
I did. I actually plugged my phone in. I was away from it. I was watching Christmas Vacation. I came back and I was like, had 23 text messages or whatever it was.
All right. 30 seconds, Jimbo. Dopieric isn't here yet, but he may be here shortly. And also, we got to remember he travels with NBA stuff on now, so he may be potentially asleep.
That's true.
Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It's Monday here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte as well. Brought to you by our good friends at RE/MAX. Cheryl Sizemore, if you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Make sure you reach out to Cheryl. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle and Dustin with you. It's going to be a quick week for Indiana basketball. They've got to get up and over this loss to Rutgers. They've got a game at home and then hit the road to Las Vegas. Probably the day after that, which would be Thursday. I would imagine they'll fly out, but I don't know. You have to wonder how that affects them. Did it wake them up? What was going on? It was weird to see them lose they just didn't put up much of a fight.
Yeah.
And through 7 games, we've seen a team do nothing but fight, but do the things that they needed to do. And man, they did none of that.
Well, again, I think I want to go back to the point you made before we took a break, and that was, have they learned how to win? And so I guess here's what I would say. The difference, I think they've learned how to win, but have they learned how to handle success? I think is probably the better question at this point, because like I said, this was the first time this season they've had to play 2 good quality teams in back-to-back games. So they've had some cupcakes. They had Xavier earlier in the season, but then they turn around and they play a couple other low major teams. So this was the first time. And how do you respond when you get punched in the mouth? Obviously, they couldn't respond in that game. And so you throw that away, but you take some lessons from this. And how does it affect you over these next 4 games? Do you come out pissed off against Nebraska and try to send a message? And if they do that, then I think you look at this team and say, yeah, they still got that fire. They still know what they want to accomplish. They still have all their goals in front of them. If they look lackluster, then maybe you wonder about a little bit about the mindset. But we're still early in the season. I mean, I still think when you have freshmen, when you're dealing with the injury bug a little bit, and everybody's going to deal with it, it's still early in the season. Indiana's going to continue to get better as the season progresses, as they get more familiar with one another. You can't just expect through the first 8 games that everything's going to look like it will in February or March. There's going to be some games where you have some guys not play well. There's going to be some games where things just aren't quite clicking. It's a long season. So I just want to see how they respond to this loss, because if they come out with a purpose, they have the potential to get a big win over Nebraska, look really impressive. And then, like I said, hopes are back up through the roof as they go on to these next 2 big games against Arizona and Kansas.
Ross says he doesn't like it, but it appears that Race is being affected by Malik's presence. I don't know how they're not playing together on the court at the same time, so that shouldn't really be the case. But when Malik is in versus Race, there is a distinct difference, whether Trace Jackson Davis is in the game or not. Malik tries to play his game. I'm not quite sure what Race is doing when he's in there, where he's going to be. So there's a distinct difference between Race being in and Malik being in. There's no doubt to that. I think Malik's a better shooter than the Race. So
I think we could be misinterpreting what he's saying. I think what Ross or whoever commented is trying to say, and I could be wrong about this, is that Race is being affected by Malik being on the roster. The fact that he's taking away from his game.
No.
You don't think so?
No, because you can't play the game with 5 guys. You cannot play the game with 5 guys. So there has to be other people. And if you want it, come get it. If you want more minutes, come get them. So That's my deal. Is that what it is? You back down? No, you can't. That's what you can't have. If you've got someone backing down to a guy on your own team, what the hell is he going to do to someone on the other team?
And that would be really concerning if that is the case. Now we don't know. We're not there. I don't know his mentality. I have no idea. So I'm not going to speculate. But I mean, if that was the case, then from one of your leaders, that would be very troubling, because he's been a guy that's been there. He's been a guy that set the goal, is helping to bring Indiana back. And if he's having that kind of issue, then that's not a freshman, thinking about maybe did I make the right decision? That's a guy that's supposed to be a leader on your team. If that's an issue, then that's a bigger concern than just what he's producing on the floor.
Well, it's early in the season. It's one loss, so I definitely don't want to punch on this team. But it was not. When you see a team that gets punched in the mouth and just doesn't respond, and then gets punched in the mouth again and doesn't respond, it gives you a little concern.
Sure.
I'm concerned that this team does not have the intestinal fortitude it's going to need in tough games and on the road, because they showed none of that at Rutgers. None of that.
I think
it's like they came in saying, "Hey, we're Indiana, buddy. We're somebody now." Rutgers says, you know what Rutgers said? Exactly what Geo Baker said. That's what Rutgers said. That's the mentality they had. That's the chip on their shoulder that they're carrying. If Indiana wants to talk about carrying a chip on their shoulder, then knock somebody else's off. Because Rutgers has one on their shoulder. You need to knock theirs off and knock other people's off before you can talk about having one on your own.
Well, I think that's why this can be a learning moment. I mean, you still got young players on this team. They're probably here's part of the thing is when you win a game at home like they did against North Carolina, and I understand that right now North Carolina is probably not nearly as good or as much of a big win as we thought it was going to be coming into this season. But these are still 18 to 22-year-old kids. I don't care how long they've been on the roster. It still is in your mind. And then you say, oh, we got to go play Rutgers. You shouldn't have this mentality as a player, but it's not nearly as intimidating. You don't get nearly as hyped up. So having this loss, that can be a learning moment for you to say, hey, and I understand that Trace Jackson Davis talked about wanting to beat Rutgers. I understand that these leaders, some of these older guys have never beaten Rutgers, so it's at the forefront. But when you talk about this from top to bottom, you have to have everybody all bought in on each and every game. And I don't think it happened over the weekend, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen at some point. This might have been a wake-up call for Indiana. And the other thing is we're 8 games in, you're going to have bad games. It's just going to happen. You're going to have a game where I don't know, food didn't taste right. You didn't have the energy level. It just happens over the course of a long season. So, again, I'm like you, Jim. I don't want to lament too much and punch this team in the gut repeatedly. Are there some things that are troubling from that performance? Sure. But I'm not going to write this team off. I still think they're one of the best 2-3 teams in the Big Ten. It's just they didn't have it on Saturday.
And several comments regarding Race shooting the three. What do you want him to do it? I completely disagree. He has repeatedly shown he's not a good three-point shooter. Let me repeat that. He's not a good three-point shooter.
Right.
He's 6'11". Guess where he needs to be and what he needs to be doing. Hunter Dickinson shoots a three, but guess what? He makes them. There's a difference. Just because he can hit one, I don't care. Shooting one out of whatever doesn't do your team any good.
Right.
He needs to be down dominating, doing what he can do. That's where I completely disagree that he needs to be shooting the three. You got guys that shoot the three. Let them shoot the damn three.
So this goes then into some of the questions that you've had about Race not looking like himself. Is he uncomfortable in that role?
Which role?
If he's shooting threes, is he not comfortable? But Mike Woodson wants him to do it.
No, he wants to shoot the three. He wants to shoot the three. You kidding me? That allows him to stand out there and shoot the ball, not have to get underneath. And not that I'm saying he shies away from that, but who doesn't want to hit the big shot? Who doesn't want to hit the big three ball?
Well, but if that's not been his game for his entire time at Indiana, there might still be a little bit of hesitation there is what I'm saying.
Well, he's not hesitating. He's being encouraged. But regardless, that's just not – I just disagree that should be a part of his game when it's not good. You know, if he was decent at it, it's one thing. Right. He's not. He's no better than me or you. I'm just being honest.
You haven't seen me shoot a basketball. He might be better than me.
I don't need to. I don't need to. But there you go. There's a big win. Maryland. There's a team. You want to talk about your dark horse?
No kidding.
And they're not going to be so dark very long.
No.
They could be the horse out in front soon. Maryland is the team to watch in the Big Ten.
Stephen Bardo tried to tell us at Big Ten Media Days. He was on it. I thought he was crazy, but looks pretty smart right now. They're 8-0. I think their next game is on the road against Wisconsin, so that'll be another tough challenge for them.
That is a team you better look out for in the Big Ten.
Yep.
Forget about Purdue. Forget about Michigan State. Forget about Michigan. Maryland is the team you better look out for. Yeah. And they've got great recruiting coming.
Yes, they do. Mm-hmm.
So Maryland is a team that is on the rise in the Big Ten, and I'm talking about now, not next year.
Yeah. Well, that's the benefit of Kevin Willard coming from Seton Hall. He already has those connections in that area of the country in terms of recruiting. So it doesn't change a whole hell of a lot for him to go from Seton Hall to Maryland. So that was one positive of that. Considering how disastrous Maryland was a season ago, I thought they might be better than they were last year, but I did not fathom that they would be near the top of the Big Ten. But right now, oh boy, they've got some – we'll see how it goes over the course of a 30-game season. But right now, they are looking really good.
Let's see. Kenneth said Rutgers scored in the paint because Indiana was not allowed to touch him without a foul being called. Fouls were 20-18, pretty much equally split.
And
you're not going to – the reason Indiana didn't score in the paint has nothing to do with fouls being called. Indiana didn't score in the paint. Nobody's talking about Rutgers scoring in the paint as much as Indiana not scoring in the paint because Indiana's the team that had the dominant All-American guy in the middle, not Rutgers.
Well, and you said Rutgers had 24 in the paint?
Yeah, they outscored Indiana. They shut Indiana down.
That's not an astronomical. Yeah, that's not an astronomical number either.
Half of what Indiana scored the last time.
Right, against North Carolina. Yeah.
The point is Rutgers shut Indiana down.
And by the way, if you don't like look, I'm in agreement with most fans across the Big Ten in that the basketball officiating is not good in the conference and it needs to be fixed. But if you think the officiating was an issue on Saturday, get ready for a long season because that's going to be a thing throughout the course of the season.
Oh, absolutely. It always is. Jared says the Big Ten is very competitive this season. You never want to lose, but the conference is so difficult from top to bottom, as proven by Nebraska and Northwestern's wins yesterday. That 14-6, 13-7 could split the conference championship. I agree, but I still think that somebody is going to win those two games that tilt that balance to a 15-5 type of record. But no disagreement with it being a lot tougher than we thought. Ohio State, we haven't talked about them. They're just, it could be much more competitive than anyone even thought possible on this. Hate to hear that. Rob Fennessy fractured his foot over the weekend.
That's too bad.
Playing for Cincinnati. But yeah, Forrest, they take on Nebraska this Wednesday. How they respond is going to be very important. Yep, we'll see. We'll see how they do. Does that mean it's break time again?
Actually, it's not. I don't know why I stuck in here. I think I just thought you were wrapping up a segment, and I was like, oh, it's time to go to break. And I didn't even look at the clock. We got a couple more minutes.
Yeah, Jared says never want to make excuses, but never know what's going on behind the scenes. Example, the flu is awful. Yeah, I'm not making excuses for something I don't even know about. I'm not going to make excuses for that lack of effort in that game. That was more of a lack of effort. If they want to say they were sick, I'll listen to it, but I've never heard anything about that, so there's no point in starting that. What are you laughing at?
I'll listen to it, but I'm not going to talk about it. I like it.
Which one?
But talking about the flu.
Oh, yeah. I have not. That has not. Yeah, I haven't heard that having anything to do with it. Jared says as great as wins against Arizona and Kansas would be, road wins in the conference mean more because that's the difference in winning the Big Ten. That's true.
100%. It is true.
I can promise you that a goal for the season for that team is to win the Big Ten conference.
Right.
Winning at Rutgers was much more important than winning at Kansas or beating Arizona. Great win. Exactly right, Jared. They look great. And they are great. Great for confidence, great for national prestige, great for a lot of things. But if you want to win the Big Ten, which is even better than all, you got to win the games that you got to win.
Right. And that's why I say these games are important in terms of a bounce back because you want to see how they respond after a loss. That's the only point I'm trying to make. Yes, you'd much rather have that win over Rutgers than the other two than Arizona or Kansas. But if you're able to bounce back, get some of that confidence back, then that's a good sign.
Eric says it was just a bad game. Poor body language. That's going to happen. I don't think it should happen this early in the season. I don't disagree with you, Eric. Like I said, that stuff happens, but you usually don't see it this early in the season. Haven't really had to. It's early, so they're still fresh. But I think it is time for a break now. So we'll do that. Hopefully, Dustin Pierre could be along. If not, he's probably because he's traveling on a Pacers gig. But lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. If you're in the Louisville, Southern Indiana, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, Scott County areas down there, make sure you reach out to Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. They've served that community for 3 decades. Barbara at barbarapop.com or reach out to my man, Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com to get you taken care of. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda. Holy crap, it's hot in here.
Dustin, is there any chance he can stay till 10:20 today if we don't get Dustin to Pierre at all? So we go 10:40 usually on Mondays. Oh, you muted yourself.
I was going to say I doubt it.
Okay.
Just because last week I had something that popped up immediately when I logged on. So
So are you going to be on tomorrow or no?
Yes, I'll be. I should be here every day this week.
Okay.
But tomorrow will be this setting, and then, although it sounds like it's everything's
having
going good, and then
not having Deperic is going to kill the clips today.
No, it won't, because I'm going to clip you and Dustin. I already have one ready for it. Y'all don't panic.
I understand. I'm not panicking. I'm making a statement. We don't have Don nor Dustin, so it will kill the clips today. I'm telling you that.
That is fair. That's a fair assessment. We don't have either one of them. But people will watch you too. I think we'll still be okay. And plus, I don't know if you saw the post-game show was close to like 1,500 views from Sunday, or Saturday, whatever day the game was on. Oh, and RC will be here for me tomorrow. Just a reminder. I know I messaged you about that the other day, Jim. And then there's a stretch the week leading up to Christmas that I have to do some filling in that Joe said he already said he'll probably be able to take care of it. It's 3 days, but that's the week leading up to Christmas. And that's because everybody has vacation at iHeart to take during that week except me.
that's how it goes.
All right, here we go.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Monday. Jim Coyle with you. Dustin Schutte as well from outsider.com. Appreciate everybody being along. Don Fisher off this week. He's off receiving the Chris Schenkel Award, by the way. That's why Don is not with us today. I forgot to almost mention that. Yeah, he's off getting his Don that award. I think I forget where he's getting that, and then he goes straight to Las Vegas if it's not in Las Vegas. But congratulations to Don on that. Eric predicts 26-5 regular season record for Indiana. Well, that would go along with 5 Big Ten losses.
Maybe. That's assuming they beat Arizona and Kansas.
That means they only lose 4 more games. And there's no way in the world the team that I saw on Saturday loses only 4 more teams. It's that not in the league that I know they play in. 5 lefts thinks that Race is playing lazy, not moving with purpose. Bradley thinks that potential record is generous, and I agree, very generous. John does not understand why Race is even shooting threes. Well, I'll tell you why, because Mike Woodson comes from the NBA, where the bigs shoot threes, all of them, but they can shoot threes. And I don't care what Race does in practice. It does not translate to games, and it's not going to. You can keep trying to force it. I don't see how it helps Indiana. I don't care if he hits 1 or 2 in a game. All that does is fuel the desire to do it more unsuccessfully, because just look at the numbers. You know what? What is his, and it's not picking on him. It's just, that's something he should, it's just not his game, in my opinion. And it hurts Indiana when you try to do that.
Yeah, his 3-point percentage on the year is at 12.5%.
12.5%. 12.5%. Good God on earth. Why? Why would you have that guy shooting 3-pointers? He's shooting 12.5%.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how many, if they've got the statistic of how many he's actually shot, what the numbers are.
It doesn't even matter to me. I don't even care because I know. I've seen this game. I saw it last year.
Two of 16. So he shot average of 2 per game. So would you say that's 2 turnovers per game?
At least.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And a lot of times I think one was early in the shot clock. There's just a whole bunch with it that it does not make the team better. Well, that may not be the case. I'm not sure I'm a better shooter than Race, but what do you think? I was not an athlete? I run a radio show. I appreciate it. Whoops. But yes, it's just run their offense the way the offense should be the most successful.
Right.
And I do not see in any way, shape, or form how Race Thompson out shooting threes is how this offense could be the most successful.
Right.
I don't see that. You got a guy that shoots 12.5%. So why? He's 6'11" and should be clearing people out. Instead.
Well, and when you have your designated 3-point shooters or guys who can hit it, if they're not hitting, it's more just they just didn't have it that specific night. But when you have other guys who are not shooting the ball well from there and shouldn't be taking many shots from behind the arc, then it comes to, that's when people start questioning the coach, as we're kind of doing right now, questioning the coaching and the offense at this point. But I don't know. I got to imagine that that's not going to last too much longer if this is the end result. I mean, there's enough of a sample size there. I mean, you're what, a quarter of the way through the season
already? Yeah, I guess.
I mean, 30 games. They played 8.
Yeah, thereabout. That's only 24, but 25%. Yeah. TJ 5 less says TJD's body language was different the entire game. He looked frustrated from the jump. Well, part of this, I'm sure maybe he felt like he wasn't getting enough help down there, maybe, but also he's got to create his own shot. He has got to create his own shot. He started doing that a little toward the end of the game, but up until that, it seemed like he was allowing them to keep him defending. Now they were all over him. I got to tell you this too. They were every guy, they were looking to hedge on him every time. If he was on the right side, the defender in the middle, he was looking to his right. He was looking to hedge instantly to get on Trayce Jackson-Davis. So they were looking to shut Trayce Jackson-Davis down, which they did a pretty good job of that. But if that's the case, how in the hell does Race Thompson not step up? I'll tell you why, because his ass is out on the 3-point line. That's my opinion on that, but
I said this after the first 2 games of the season, and everybody dismissed it, and now this is what's going to happen. I said they dominated inside. Trayce Jackson-Davis was dominant in his first couple games, but does him not having a jump shot hurt this team? And everybody said, no, it won't hurt this team. Guess what happened? It's got to be a threat, because they're just going to double team you, or they're going to take away the basket. And when they do that, he's still an All-American player. I'm not saying that, but it has to be a threat where if he's looking to pass the ball, he's no longer a threat to score. If you can at least hit the jump shot, if you don't have to do it a lot. If you can do it 3 or 4 times in a game, then that makes them play defense on you a little bit differently. And that's why I think him not having a jump shot is still going to be one of the Achilles heels. Now, I agree with you on the Race Thompson. He needs to be near the bucket more than on the 3-point line. That hurts Indiana's offense too. But this aspect of the game, when your big man doesn't have a jump shot, it's going to be tough in the Big Ten. And I think we saw the first taste of that on Saturday.
Yeah. Pete says Trace Jackson Davis was very frustrated so much he seemed to purposely foul out. I've heard that from more than one person. That I don't remember seeing that last play where he got the foul. So I didn't see it, but I've heard that from more than one person. So I don't know whether that's the case or not, but I'm sure he was frustrated without question at that point. But again, how do they respond? We can sit here and talk about bang on people all they want. How do they respond? What do they do now? You got to go forward. So they're the ones in there looking at film, looking at tape, seeing what went wrong, what you didn't do right, what you didn't do well. It's up to them to come out and improve upon that, not do that, not see that kind of performance again. Losing is one thing. I saw somebody else say it earlier, maybe more than one. It's how you lose.
Yeah.
Getting beat happens every day, man. People get beat, people lose, people are going to lose. That's why you play the games. But it's how you lose. I hate to say it's how you play the game. But by that, I mean, are you trying to win? Are you giving everything you've got to win? You have to do that in every game to win it. You just have to. Because the minute you don't, it's over.
Here's the question, though, that I would have, because the defense played decent. I mean, Rutgers wasn't knocking down a ton of shots. They weren't. So I don't know that this was – I don't know that it was Indiana just walked out on the court. I think I still think the defense was there, but on the offensive side, I think they got to a point where they were so frustrated that they couldn't get baskets that it was just like square peg, round hole. And I don't want to say they gave up on the offensive side, but it just got so frustrating that it looked like there wasn't the effort there. I don't know that their defense, I thought, played well enough to win the game. You give up 63 points, and on that percentage shooting that Rutgers had, which was, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, 34 or something like that. That's good enough to win a lot of basketball games. So it's hard for me to say that they didn't give the kind of effort. It did look ugly. I'm not saying it didn't. I just think you get to a point offensively where when you're shooting so poorly, you try to force too much, and then it looks like you're not giving the effort. I don't know that was the case, though.
Well, and they were out of sorts. You got to give them that. You don't have Jalen Hood-Schifino, a guy who has been very integral in how the offense runs. No matter if he's scoring a bunch of points or not, he was very integral. He's getting rebounds. He is making plays, making passes. And I think that was not having Jalen Hood-Schifino was a lot bigger than people would have thought. And I think you got a good vision of Indiana without Jalen Hood-Schifino in that game. That looked a lot. People keep saying it looked a lot like last year. Well, guess who wasn't on the floor?
True. Very true.
Guess who wasn't on the floor last year in that game? Jalen Hood-Schifino. It makes a difference when you really alter your offense. And the offense was completely altered. Completely altered. That has nothing to do with Trey Galloway. He's not Jalen Hood-Schifino. I mean, it's nothing to do with Trey. He's not Jalen Hood-Schifino. I mean, that's easy to say.
Well, and I think you saw in these other games when Jalen Hood-Schifino has been on the floor, what did Xavier Johnson not do?
Foul.
Well, he also did not. He also, when he was shooting the ball poorly, he also didn't put up 11 shots. So he was 2 of 11. I think those two guys are comfortable with each other on the floor. And so he doesn't feel like he has to do a lot. But now, I also believe that Xavier Johnson got back to his, I'm going to have to carry this team a little bit more because we're not getting things going on the inside. We don't have Jalen Hood-Schifino. And so I think this is when you take a guy away, such an integral part of your well, he's a good player on both ends of the floor, but one of the key players to your team out of it, then guys start to press a little bit more. They try to do too much. And I think that's probably a little bit of what you saw again on Saturday. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into this, and it's why I'm not hitting the panic button. We can talk about it, and of course it's concerning, but this is why I'm not hitting the panic button, because I think when he returns, you have to make an adjustment, and clearly Indiana did not do that. They weren't able to adjust without him on the floor.
And you have to remember this is the first time they've had to play without him.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm not going to minimize not having Jalen Hood-Schifino, someone who is so important as he is. He is a calming influence on that offense, but he is also and adds an electric element to that offense. He allows it to be a little more free flowing. I think he allows it to be a little bit more spaced because of his ability to get to the rim, because to drive and kick effectively. So it mattered. I know I've kind of come down on him a little bit, but I've come down on the reasons for him to come down on, but not having Jalen Hood-Schifino definitely hurt them, and I'm not going to discount that.
I agree. I think from the Indiana fan perspective, I think that great teams find a way to win that game, or at least battle. And so when you lose by 15 on the road without one of your star players, it makes a big difference. But Indiana we've talked about at length the depth. So if somebody gets injured, if somebody's in foul trouble, Indiana can throw another guy on the floor, and they'll be maybe not the same, but they'll be pretty close to what they normally would be. And I think you saw that that's not necessarily the case, especially early in the season. Fans wanted a much better performance, but it makes a difference. So I think that's probably part of the frustration. Was we talked about this team is so deep. If there's an injury, if there's a guy who can't go one night, if there's a guy in foul trouble, Indiana will be just fine because they got so many different options. And it's just not always the case. So you factor that in with the fact that you have back-to-back tough games. You don't have Jalen Hood-Schifino. You weren't shooting the ball well. There's just a lot of factors that go into it. And so I understand the frustrating part, because on paper, yes, you have the depth to make up for a guy being out in this type of game. But there's so much that goes into it, as you said. If they're out of sorts, if they don't have the ability to stretch the floor quite like they always do, I think Xavier Johnson started pressing a little bit. Trace Jackson-Davis got frustrated. There just a lot of factors that went into it. But again, you did have some other guys step up. The big key was you had 6 points off the bench. I mean, woof. That's
woof,
the problem.
exactly. Well, yeah. Well, part of that was because you had Trey Galloway on the floor to start. So there's some bench points that you lose, but not very many. What is Trey averaging?
He scored 0, so you didn't lose any bench points.
There you go. So there you go. Again, another thing, this Indiana team was completely shut down. How important is Jalen Hood-Schifino to this offense?
Huge.
Is he the most important part of this offense? Successful offense, for it to be successful, I think that may be the case. A lot of the guys have talked about how that, the Xavier is how this team's going to go. And it's not that you disagree with that, but I think Xavier goes better if you've got all 5 components in there. Jalen Hood-Schifino being one of those components. He, like I said, I think it's a calming influence on the offense. Yep. It puts the ball in 2 different hands, multiple options. Defenses have to respect both of those options, where they did not have to do that the other night. I don't think that Trey Galloway, a good backup, is not the fastest guy. He's not a threat offensively. He's not a threat to get to the rim. So he doesn't impose fear as opposed to someone like Jalen Hood-Schifino, who can do all of those things.
And you're playing, and the other part of this too is, especially with your starting 5, your rotations get out of sorts a little bit, but you're not running probably the same offense, because like you just said, Trey Galloway cannot do the same things that Jalen Hood-Schifino can do. So you're not running the same offense. So it takes you a while to get into a rhythm. I mean, some people think there's a lot that goes into this. I think that some people think that if you got a guy injured, you just plug him in, plug another guy in, it's going to look the exact same. And that's not always the case, because the games of those 2 players are completely different. So they had to make an adjustment, and clearly they weren't ready to make that adjustment. And I mean, it just changes the game dramatically. Yeah, you can have it's better almost if you have a bench guy who gets hurt because it doesn't affect the starting rotation or some of your later rotations. In this case, when it's such a key player, it just affects how you play the game, what your strategy is, how you're going to attack Rutgers offensively. And like I said, clearly Indiana did not have the right game plan. This is why I say I don't want to knock their effort because, yes, it didn't look good, but defensively they did play well enough to win that game.
Philip says, ask a question, more important to win the Big Ten or win the tournament? And I'm not sure. I'm assuming he means the Big Ten tournament. As far as importance, I think it's to win the Big Ten is a goal. Winning the Big Ten tournament, probably not on their goals. Winning the Big Ten, because that is a season long, grind it out on the road, half of your games on the road. That is a much more difficult chore to accomplish. And the Big Ten champion will generally always be ranked ahead of higher than the Big Ten tournament winner.
Right. I think we had this conversation with Rick Bozich earlier in the year about it was key, or it was a big goal for Indiana to win the Big Ten tournament. I don't agree with that. I think it's more important to win the conference tournament, or the conference regular season, because I understand Indiana has struggled in the Big Ten tournament. It's not been good to the Hoosiers. And yeah, it would be awesome to see Indiana go in there and play well and get that title. But over the course of the season, like, the Big Ten tournament doesn't mean really anything as long as you're in the tournament. I think that the more impressive feat is to go on and win, 20 games and to be the best team through 20 conference games. That to me is a more impressive feat. And then crazy things happen in March. So I don't put a lot of stock into how you perform in the conference tournament.
See a lot of people complaining about officiating. You got to get over that, man.
Yeah.
I really do not think they give a rat's butt what it says on the jersey. I mean, I don't think that, because these officials are different. They're not getting together and saying, hey, let's screw Indiana. Why? What? Indiana hasn't done squat. They haven't finished above 9th in 6 years. So why you think that they're trying to screw Indiana?
Right.
I think fans just see it that way, but no, I think you got to get over the officiating. You've got to overcome all of that. That's part of sports.
Right.
You have to overcome all of that. The opponent and the officiating, period. John Boy's telling us we got to take a break. You're leaving us for the day, I understand.
I am, but I'll be back bright-eyed and bushy-tailed tomorrow.
Oh, well, we just can't wait. Looking forward to it. I can't thank you enough, but we got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Dustin, you have a good rest of your day, and we'll chat at you tomorrow. Everybody else, we're back with more on Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by our good friends from Metalworks Brewing Company, part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Metalworks, located just off the square, catty corner from Cabello, in the old Function Brewery Company. So stop in, enjoy their metal art. They got these cool growlers made out of some really great designs. Awesome growlers to grab a hold of. Plenty more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming up right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is John.
All right. Yeah, so Kyler 1020 going to come on now.
He's going to come on now.
I mean, I should have phrased that better. Kyler is now going to come on with us at 1020. That's how I should have said that. And now I have a couple of Woodson clips for you if you would like to use those.
Absolutely. I should have probably had you get one from Todd Leary.
Oh, well.
Talking about the game,
Yeah. I wish I'd have thought about that earlier. The first Woodson one, actually, let me make sure I've got these ordered correctly. First one's talking about how bad the offense was. Second one's talking about race being scoreless.
I'd have seen this earlier. Here's one somebody I could have had on. Took this guy 2 months to return my text message.
Shoot, I need to send the link to Kyler. I didn't do that yet. It takes more than a text message.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a great talk about the deal he covered this weekend. Actually, it's perfect.
There you go, because there was the
Staley led all scorers with 30 points.
Perfect. Yeah, that gives us something different to talk about too.
Sneakers for Santa.
That's right. I saw Kyle Bedrip covering that too. All right, here we go.
Anniversary membership for only $299. That's right, just $299 covers your green fees for the next 2 years at Eagle Point. It includes tee times starting as early as up to 10 a.m. with 1 week in advance tee time bookings. You just cover your card fees. Now, there is a limited number of memberships available, so go to eaglepoint.com right now and get yours today.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here with you on this Monday. Hope everyone's having a good start to the week. Jim Coyle with you. Kyler Staley will join us next. We'll talk about the Sneakers for Santa event that happened over the weekend. Floyd Badunga, Trent Sisley, Kalen Catchings, all these guys playing in that. We'll hear about that, which was a pretty big event. A lot of great play going on there. Mike Whitson probably did not enjoy his trip to Piscataway. We've got some clips from Coach Woody to hear what he had to say. John, let him fly.
Our offense was awful tonight, but it wasn't the offense. I mean, I thought we had some good looks. You know, teams are going to play Trace that way, and we get it. We got to make shots from the perimeter, but we just got out tough tonight, I thought. I mean, from the beginning to the end. I mean, we couldn't rebound the basketball with them. I thought that was the difference in the ball game, and hell, that was the cushion that they needed, because I thought from an offensive standpoint, you know, even though we missed shots, they weren't running off anywhere. Our defense was decent, but it was just the extra opportunities for them that they gave them, that put them in the position that they were in. They out-toughed us, I thought.
You know, that just amazes me to hear, though. Not that it's not true, because it is. But how does a team that punks you before, I mean, just straight out tells you through Geo Baker, we're not afraid of Indiana. Who's Indiana? Because they've beaten your butt however many straight times now before that game. How can you not be as far? Trace Jackson Davis, I have not beaten Rutgers since I've been here. So he's going to be, no, they did not have that fire. They had no fire. Where was that fire? How can you not have fire going on to take on a team who's punked you, who's called you out, and who's beaten your butt? I don't know. How do you, but they weren't. They had no fire, nothing. And it just shocks me that that was the case. I don't know why you can ever at any game play this season, especially for guys like Trace and Race, and it not just, there are no off nights. This is it for you. There are no off nights. You're trying to put on the best season you can because you have goals to move up and beyond. Well, if that's the case, you can't play like that. You can't have guys that are not as good as you outplay you. out-tough you. And that's what happened again at Rutgers. Again to Rutgers. Losing at Rutgers is not as bad, but they've lost to Rutgers, period. Doesn't matter where the game has been played over the last 5 or 6 years. Because Rutgers, when they play Indiana, just like Geo Baker said, we're not afraid of them. They come into the game ready to win. Indiana's going to have to find that level for every game. But John, what else you got?
Well, he didn't play well. That's all I can tell you. And that's something that I addressed right before I left the locker room. He's got to get better to help us. We need everybody playing, especially when you get out on the road. I mean, the road is tough to win on, but I'm not taking anything away from Rutgers. They played great tonight.
I'm not sure who he was talking about there, John. Did you have the
Well, that was about Race Thompson being scoreless. Excuse me.
Yeah. How good has Race played this season? And again, I'm not looking to jump on somebody, but it was mentioned earlier. Is his play being affected?
How long until people start blaming the sweatband?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Last year, he averaged 11 points per game. The year before that, 9 points per game. This year so far, 6 points per game. Now, yeah, there's Jalen Hood-Schifino on there. Maybe that makes it. That shouldn't make a difference. He should still be getting his minutes. He's lost about 8 minutes a game. So there's part of that. His field goal percentage is down substantially, 10%, which is big. Rebounding, he's averaged about 5 a game. He averaged 2.5 more than that last year. His numbers have fallen. Malik's taken a little bit away from that because of the minutes, no doubt. But when he's in there, is his production what it was last year? I'm not seeing it right now. And whatever it is, he needs to pick up the pace for this team to be good. And Trace Jackson-Davis can't allow people to do what Rutgers did to him. But that's not all on him. He's got to get a little bit more help, man. He's just got to get more help from outside shooting, more help from inside, from Race. You just can't take, there are no off games in the Big Ten, period. This is what it's easy for me to say, but that's the truth. If your goal is to win the Big Ten, if whatever your goals are, you have to set the bar high. Look at your previous 4 seasons, 5 seasons, whatever, however long you've been here. You've got stuff to gauge it on. John, do you have any more clips there?
So I only had 2.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know what you were holding on there. But yeah, a lot of people are saying this team just looks just like last year. Well, you took Jalen Hood-Schifino out. It did look just like last year. But you know why? Because that's the exact same team as that you had last year. That's why a lot of the national guys were not bought into this Indiana team. They said, what's different? You've got the same team that finished 9th or whatever they finished in the Big Ten. Well, Jalen Hood-Schifino is different. Not having him made a gigantic difference. I think it made a much bigger difference than any of us thought that it might. But we certainly got a view of that. And when hopefully, if he's back on Wednesday, it'll be a different situation for Indiana, but definitely not having him in drastically affected Indiana's flow of offense, distribution, everything. It affected everything. luckily for Indiana, Miller Kopp had a great night. Shooting was hot early, hit some shots, and was feeling it. They could use a lot more of that from him. Having that happen more frequently is what makes teams better. Having guys do that once every 10 games, it's okay. You got to have that in more frequency. That's the difference between being elite and being better than average. Hopefully they do. There was more needed from Miller Kopp, and you got to give it to him. He stood up, man. He stepped up. He did what he was supposed to do, what he's capable of doing, hitting 3-point shots. So, as a matter of fact, Indiana would not have even been in that game. And had they won the game, then he would have gotten a pass for the rest of the year. They didn't, so I don't give him a pass for the rest of the year. But he would have gotten a pass almost for the rest of the year had Indiana been able to pull that game out because of how important it would have been to have that road win, to have that Big Ten win, and not have, more importantly, not have that Big Ten loss on the ledger. But he did about everything he could do. But there was nothing else there. And I see that this is exactly how this team would probably be if they don't have a Jalen Hood-Schifino in there. That's the difference Jalen Hood-Schifino makes. Seriously. Dave G asking where Logan Duncombe has been. Not sure. There's nothing but Logan Duncombe. If he can't handle these guys. If he could, he would have been playing a lot already. He's not ready. Is Purdue a top 5 team? Possibly. I'm not sure who all is in the top 5. I mean, it keeps changing. It may be easier to have it's a little deeper. I'm not sure who the 5 best teams are. Arizona, I thought maybe Creighton. They get beat. I know the Big Ten is going to be harder than I thought. And I thought it was going to be hard to begin with. It just keeps getting tougher. And tougher. Robert says Indiana's problem is they do not have a big man that can shoot outside from 14 feet. I disagree. Malik Reneau can do that. He doesn't try to do that very often because he's very successful playing his game normally. But Malik Reneau is a guy that would be able to do that. I truly believe that. We've got to take a break. When we come back, Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com is going to join us. We're going to find out what all happened at the Sneakers for Santa event over the weekend, which had a ton of IU prospects in it, as well as plenty of others. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by Cabello Restaurant, part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wild Club. Make sure you stop by Cabello, located on the square in Bloomington. Enjoy the taste and traditions of Southern Italy right here in Southern Indiana. We're back with Kyler Staley of thehoosier.com right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting...
All right. Here he is.
What's going on, guys?
Morning, Kyler. Thanks for joining last minute today.
No problem.
Yeah, how was Sneakers for Santa?
Long day. I mean, I was there from about 9 a.m. to 10 o'clock, but it was a fun day. A lot of good basketball, 7 good games. Crowd really started to file in towards the last 3 games once Sicily and Flory and Gabe Cubs and all them played.
What'd you think about Rutgers?
I watched it a little bit. As I was covering the game. It was just your typical letdown game. That's just what it is. Every college basketball team faces something like that. I mean, I don't think Indiana fans should be panicking like they are right now. But
well, they're going to panic every loss, man.
Yeah, that's just how it is. Like, it's okay to lose on the road. They should have had more effort out of them. But
yes, that's it right there. It's
I think it's just the fact that it's Rutgers, and you can't beat Rutgers after all these years. You still can't beat Rutgers.
But here's the thing with Rutgers is they're not a laughing stock anymore. They're not like, when they came into the Big Ten and it was like, oh, Rutgers, like who are they?
It's not.
I agree with you, but you still
tough.
should get one every once in a while, even if it is on the road.
Yeah,
it's the fact that they've lost to them. What was it, 6 times straight now? What's the streak up to?
And then it validifies everything Geo Baker said, essentially.
Yeah, that's the annoying part right there. But Indiana's got another chance at them later on this season because they come to Indiana. So
okay,
I'm sure that game will be very, very emotional.
Oh yeah, it'll be a loud one.
Yeah.
It was a little chippy too, from what I saw.
All right, boys, here we go.
Producer with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here at high atop the 18th fairway, brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Joined now by Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. It's a cold one this morning, but I'm doing great.
Yeah, we're done talking about Indiana losing their 8th out of 9 games to Rutgers. 8 out of 9, man. That's what makes it so difficult. They've lost 8 out of 9 to Rutgers.
I mean, they're just the kryptonite right now. That's just Indiana's kryptonite, and I mean, they got another chance this season to finally end that streak. So we'll just see how they come out then.
Yep, lots going on over the weekend though with the Sneakers for Santa event up in Indianapolis. A lot of talent up there. A lot of IU targets as well.
Yeah, no, it was a great event. They do a really good job. It's for a great cause. You can come to that event, donate some sneakers, for some you people that are less fortunate than yourself. But awesome 7 games, great games. Towards the end, you got to see a lot of Indiana targets. Trent Sisley took on for Heritage Hills, took on the host Brownsburg, who has Kenan Catchings, a 2024 wing for that's committed to Purdue. Followed by that, you had probably the most anticipated game of the night. You had Kokomo, which features Flory Badunga, taking on Ben Davis, who's very, very good. They also have an elite big man in Zane Dottie. That was a very, very fun matchup. And then the main event of the night, you had Centerville, who is from Ohio and is home to 2023 Indiana signee Gabe Cupps and target Jonathan Powell, who's at 24. They took on Cathedral, who has Xavier Booker going to Michigan State, and Cathedral's, consistently one of the best teams in the state. But overall, just a really, really fun event. A lot of fans came out towards the end there to watch those games, and it was just competitive throughout. A lot of talent on the floor. No complaints there.
Yeah, it's seeing Trent Sisley, which we've seen him, he's a great player, obviously, but to be the guy in a tournament or an action like that really shows his depth of talent and his abilities to score the basketball in big games from different ways of scoring the ball. But a lot of people, when you play at a school like Heritage Hills, they don't always play the Indianapolis schools all the time. But when you play in these events, that's when you see from these particular players how good they are. And he really showed his skill set.
Yeah, he did. He had 30 points was for that game. He was the leading scorer for both teams from start to finish, which is extremely dominant. The problem with Heritage Hills is they're a young team and they don't have a whole lot of surrounding pieces with Sicily, so he kind of has to do it all. Sicily does an amazing job at demanding the ball on every offensive possession. For the first half, he scored mostly around the paint. Then the second half, he started stretching the floor out, and I think he went 2 of 3, if I remember correctly, from behind the arc. So, 30 points. I mean, obviously, Brownsburg beat them pretty badly, I think, by 23 points. Canada Catchings was phenomenal that game as well. I think he was leading scorer for them with 23 points. But Trent Sicily just had a great showing. There was a lot of Indiana fans there to watch him. He's just a special talent, and you are reminded of that every time you watch him play a game.
And looking forward to seeing him. Well, he hasn't committed to Indiana, so if that happens.
Long ways to go.
One that has, Gabe Cups, was also in action there.
Yeah, no, a lot of, by that time that game came in, there was a lot of Indiana fans there, but Gabe Cups played phenomenal. I kind of jokingly, I was trying to get film. I was talking to another guy and I said, I don't think I'm going to get a whole lot of game film for Gabe Cups because he's just not known as a scorer. He's more of a facilitator. He's a true point guard, but man, he went off this game, 25 points. He just looked like he was a man on a mission. He wanted to win that game. And that's just kind of how competitive he is. He's a winner of a player. Drove the lane, got through the lane very, very well. His pull-up mid-range jumper was money. Shot the deep ball very well. Was leading scorer for Centerville, played really well. And his backcourt teammate, Jonathan Powell, who's also an Indiana target for the 24 class, those two played really well off of each other, where Jonathan Powell's kind of the guy that's going to work off the ball. He's going to try to create a free look for himself. Real good catch and shoot shooter, really smooth. But Gabe Cups, yeah, he was awesome this game. Indiana fans who hadn't seen him got a first look at just how competitive this guy is. And this guy just wants to win every game.
Now, Flory Badunga there also, you mentioned from Kokomo. He had a pretty good weekend as well.
Yeah, he did. So obviously the big matchup was him going against Zane Dottie, the Ben Davis elite center, who's committed to Valparaiso. Yeah, those guys really battled each other. Flory was just amazing. I mean, his motor for his size is just outstanding. Every single play, every single possession, defensive, offensive, he's running down the floor. He's sprinting down the floor, actually. Just so quick off his feet, had 7 blocks. Every single block, it just makes my jaw drop. Just got how quick he is. 16 points, 16 rebounds. The only problem that he faced was he picked up 2 fouls in the first half. And then it got down to crunch time where Kokomo kind of had all the momentum. And then he picked up three quick fouls, and then he fouled out with around 2:20 left to go. So Kokomo, the air kind of left the balloon there for them. But, I think a lot of people were just excited to see Flory in action because just, how big of a phenom he is. And he lives up to the hype every time he steps on the floor. So really good showing for him. Wish we could have seen him the last 2:20, of that game, see if there was a different result. But, for the time that he was on the floor, he was outstanding.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how his recruitment continues because he is going to be a game changer for someone.
Yeah, he is. His recruitment still, it's just still unknown. It's very tricky to kind of, read at this point in time. I think it's going to stretch out for a long time. Indiana, they're going to recruit him as hard as they can until the very last minute, until they feel like they don't have a chance with him. Which right now they do. Pretty much every school that's recruiting him does. Even Auburn head coach Bruce Pearl was in the building to watch him. Matt Painter was there to watch his guys, and I'm sure he stayed to watch Flory as well. Had a couple of Michigan State assistants that were there as well. But any chance that coaches can get, they're going to try to watch this kid play, and he lives up to the hype every time. I mean, he's as good as advertised. He's just a special player.
Jonathan Powell, a 2024 4-star shooting guard, also there.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, he was played alongside Gabe Cups. He's a transfer. I forget off the top of my head where he transferred in from, but this is his first year at Centerville. Like I mentioned, him and Gabe Cups just played phenomenal together. They're a great backcourt. Gabe Cups is going to be the facilitator. He's going to be more on the ball. Jonathan Powell's going to work off the ball to create a good look. He's just a great scorer in general. Very athletic, very quick player as well. He's going to stick mostly on the outside, but he can make a play on the ball. If he's got the ball, he's real quick on the drive. I think he had 18 points, so it was the second leading scorer for Centerville there. Him and Gabe Cupps just played great together. Not much more I can say about that. But, I mean, Jonathan Powell's a very interesting guy. If Indiana's going to be looking for more scoring in the 24 class, he's definitely a guy to kind of keep an eye on.
If we were looking into the future, say next year, what would an Indiana backcourt look like? Trey Galloway, Jalen Hood-Schifino, is Gabe Cupps good enough to step into that role? Where I haven't seen Gabe play a lot.
I mean, I think with Gabe he's going to be just a great 4-year player for Indiana. I don't think that he starts right away. Now, obviously, we don't really know what's going to happen with Jalen Hood-Schifino or not. He seems right now he's still one and done. Obviously, Xavier Johnson's not going to be there. You got Trey Galloway back. Tamar Bates will be back. CJ Gunn, those guys will step in. But I see Gabe as kind of just, one of the first players off the bench next year. I think Indiana's going to, especially if they lose Hood-Schifino and obviously Nick Xavier Johnson, I think they're going to hit the portal to try to find a more experienced point guard to kind of just fill in right there. But Gabe Cupps, I think from his sophomore year on, he's going to be Indiana's guy. He's going to be running that offense. He's going to be the guy. And I mentioned this in my, notebook, my takeaways article from him. He's a winner. Indiana's getting a winner out of this guy. This guy wants to win. He's honestly the most competitive player I've seen all year as far as, high school players. He's going to do whatever it takes to win a game. He's tough. He's scrappy defensively. I mean, he's not afraid to go at you. He's just a great, great player all around. His size doesn't limit him. I think he's going to just add strength as he gets to IU. But Indiana's getting a really good player out of him, and fans should be excited for him.
The question I'll ask, and I'm sure that fans are thinking, is with all these great shooting guards that come out of Indiana, why are they having to go to Centerville, Ohio, or wherever, and not bringing in a few more Indiana players? Because I know that is on a lot of Hoosier fans' minds.
Well, I think it's just Woodson's recruiting mentality. I think he's going to recruit the best players nationally. He's not just going to stick with Indiana. That's Matt Painter's kind of deal there.
I get that, but is that saying that Gabe Cupps is the best player? He's better than every other shooting guard that came out of Indiana? I just find maybe in that particular class, I guess, but
I would say so. If I had to really think about the 23 class for a second, I think Gabe Cupps is a lot better than a lot of them. Now, the in-state 23 class, there's a lot of Division I players. You can name up to 30 players in this class. It's a very loaded class in the state-wise. But as far as when I look at the guards, and now obviously you've got Joey Hart Jr., who plays for Linton. You got Logan Ives, who's going to Penn State. Those guys are great, great shooters. But I think Gabe Cupps is just a step above those guys. So that's why you kind of see Woodson having to go to Centerville to get this guy.
Well, there were guys available last year that could have been taken, I think, to fill this role or in the future.
Braden Smith being one of them.
Yeah, that was kind of right on top of the list, man.
That is
right on top of the list. And just got no love from Indiana. None.
Yeah, none. I think obviously Archie Miller was kind of the guy that was, had to start off with that recruitment. He just never offered Braden. And I think Braden actually, from what I hear, I think he actually did want to go to Indiana, but Archie Miller just had no interest in him, which is just hilarious to me because when you look at Archie Miller in college, him and Braden Smith were pretty similar, both short point guards, both can, facilitate, make plays. But I think, I get this asked a lot, they asked me to pick Gabe Cupps or Braden Smith. I say, ask me in 2 years. They're very similar players. Obviously Braden Smith's a year older than Gabe, so he's kind of got that advantage. But I think Indiana's going to be just fine with Gabe Cupps. I mean, there's going to be battles for 3 years with those two. Braden Smith is an excellent player. It sucks that Indiana kind of missed out on him, but I think fans should be okay knowing that they have Gabe Cupps coming in.
Nebraska coming in this Wednesday, and now it's this was a game that usually is looked at as, you can kind of take a break, but man, Indiana can take 0 breaks after what happened at Rutgers, and the fact that Nebraska just beat Creighton, one of the top teams in the country.
Yeah, Nebraska, that easily.
I mean, that's the biggest upset of the year, and it might stay that way for the rest of the season.
Yeah, honestly, I think so. Just because they went on the road, which is just crazy to me, because Creighton usually is it's a harder place to play at. And in Nebraska, for ever since Fred Hoiberg's been there, he hasn't done a very good job there. But yeah, now that Indiana game on Wednesday, you thought it was going to be a cakewalk. Now it's going to be a little bit, it's more interesting than what it was. But Indiana's just got to figure out a way to bounce back here. I don't think they're going to take that Rutgers loss. Just knowing this team, looking how competitive this team is, I don't think they're going to take that Rutgers loss very lightly. I think they're going to come in on Wednesday, hopefully all healthy. Jalen Hutchefino, hopefully that he's back for them. I think they're going to play a lot better. Knowing that they really got to bounce back from that loss. That Rutgers loss does suck right now. It might suck in the future if they're going to compete for a Big Ten championship. We'll just see as time goes on. But Nebraska, they just got to take care of business at home. From this point forward in the season, it's protect home court, and that's what Indiana's got to do. This would be a great win for them to just kind of, get back on track before they go to Vegas at the end of the week.
Absolutely. And then when they get to the end of the week, there's another tough one. I think we'll talk to you Friday before that game transpires, but Indiana, but they can't even really think about it. You've got such a big game coming up with them on the road, but this Nebraska game has taken on a little bit more importance. Not that it's not important. It was never important because it's a Big Ten game. It's a home game, but it's probably taken on just a little more importance after that loss.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And if you ask Mike Woodson, he's not even thinking about Arizona right now. So he's focused on Nebraska, which Indiana needs to. They have to take this, they have to take it one game at a time. Arizona just recently lost to, I think it was Utah, maybe. So they are a beatable team. Indiana, I think, matches up pretty well with them. I haven't done a whole lot of scouting reports on them, but Arizona usually is a tough team. Obviously, Indiana's got to travel out west. Arizona's used to the west, West Coast. They're used to that time zone and everything. So it might take Indiana a couple of days to adjust. I don't know when they're going to travel out there. So that's a factor to play in, but Indiana's got to be ready. Arizona's going to bring in a lot of fans there, as I expect Indiana fans to travel as well. So it's going to be a true neutral environment for Indiana, but this would be a big win for them to get, back on track to build up that confidence booster that they need right now.
With Nebraska coming in after their big win, they're going to be fired up. They played Indiana tough before here, but getting that win for them would be even yet a bigger upset, obviously. But I don't see that happening. And you talked about Indiana coming back after that game, and I talked about it earlier before you joined us. How they respond in this game is very, very important to what they do going forward, and especially going to be very important for facing Arizona on Saturday.
Yeah, like you just said, Nebraska, they've got all the confidence in the world right now. They just went on the road and beat a top 10 team, and they believe that they can probably beat Indiana, considering what they probably just saw Indiana do at Rutgers. But Indiana, when it comes down to it, Indiana's going to play a lot better. They got to rebound a lot better. I say it all the time. When talking to a lot of people, Indiana should never be out rebounded. With the size of their front court, with as good as their front court is, they should never be rebounded. And I think that's going to change this Wednesday. They're going to crash the glass a lot harder than what they did at Rutgers. And I expect Trace Jackson-Davis to have a much better game than he did. He was frustrated throughout the game from what I saw. They could just never get on a flow. And I think Indiana's just got to figure out a way to get back on there. Having Jalen Hutchefino back would be tremendous for them to help create more looks for them. But Indiana's just got to, bounce back here. They got to play a lot better, and I think they will.
How much did it hurt Indiana not having Jalen Hutchefino quickly?
Yeah, I think it hurt him a lot. You take away a lot of playmaking ability there. And I think it kind of hurt Xavier Johnson just a little bit as well.
Yeah, put a lot more force on him. Kyler, thanks a lot, brother. We'll talk to you again on Thursday.
Yep, have a good one.
You as well. Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, getting us wrapped up on what went on over the weekend at the Sneakers for Santa event up in Indianapolis. Lots of great action there, and future Hoosiers playing and some potential future Hoosiers playing. So there's that. We got lots more coming up this week. Tomorrow, of course, Dustin Schutte back with us. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network joins us, Chronic Hoosier as well. Let's see. John was upset. You had your soccer loss over the weekend, John.
Oh, yeah. For those of you keeping an eye on the World Cup, the U.S. bowed out in the round of 16 to the Netherlands. Disappointing performance.
Jeff Brom already making announcements that today is about Purdue and the upcoming bowl game. Louisville is for another day.
Oh,
We'll see.
1 minute.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know that he turns it down a second time.
I think he's going to go.
Yeah, I do too. I agree with you. But I thought that last time. I'm going to tell you, I thought that last time. But we'll see. It's home. It's hard. His parents are there. His whole family's from there. He played there, went to high school there. I mean, it's just, and now they need him. He's got enough money. He's made enough money at Purdue. But I don't know what the contract situation is there. So we'll see. But we're back tomorrow to do this all again. I can't thank everybody enough. Thanks to everybody on the program today, of course, and thanks to John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. And we're back tomorrow to do it again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.